Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pitts. Ukraine war, no it's not, it's nothing to do with the Ukraine war, or it's tangentially connected to the Ukraine war. By point of fact, I'm going to start talking about the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden impeachment inquiry. I'm talking to you because no one else in my house wants to listen to my bumbling on about this. Okay, so we're going to start with that and move somewhere else. We're going to start with the idea that Joe Biden, it has been investigated by by Republicans for his supposed misdemeanors involving money through Hunter Biden, and Hunter Biden being on the board of Burisma, which is a Ukrainian energy company, and then suddenly, there are impeachable offences, except there are no impeachable offences. Those, treason, high crimes, misdemeanor and whatnot appears not to be the case at all with Joe Biden. If anything, Hunter Biden might have made bad decisions, has had addictions to drugs and whatnot, but this has nothing to do with Joe Biden, and there's no evidence clearly connecting the two anyway. And most of the evidence, or the crux of the case, was with regard to a chap called Smirnov, who is an FBI informant. Turns out that he's been arrested for being unreliable, and this is on the back of Republicans saying, oh, he's so reliable, he's the smoking gun, all this. And then as soon as he was arrested and shown to be connected to Russian secret services, really, for Russian intelligence, those same people are like, oh, he's not that important. Oh, we've still got a case without him. And it turns out they haven't. So not only does the information come from Russia, really, that undergirds this whole impeachment project, which is incredibly dangerous. I mean, it shows that Russia have just got this influence in international politics that is incredibly insidious. And we need to be really, really careful going forward. But so there is that issue, and that's the connection, I guess, to Russia, Ukraine, and the war. And Burisma is a Ukrainian entity, but there is no evidence to connect Hunter Biden to Joe Biden. Nothing on bank accounts, nothing from any other sources, and yet this spectre keeps hanging over Joe Biden. And indeed, Hunter Biden wanted a public deposition. He was saying, I want to be interviewed by you guys in public. I want the world to see what I have to say. And the Republicans wouldn't let him do that. And in the end, they had a closed doors deposition where he did not invoke the Fifth Amendment. So he, like the Fifth, he didn't, say, I can't talk to you because of X, Y, and Z. He answered every question. When, if you remember, Donald Trump, I think, invoked the Fifth 440 times. You've got to give credit where credit due. And apparently Hunter Biden gave a very good, very powerful account of himself, emotional at times, but he was eloquent and did a really good job of defending his name, and indeed, by extension, his father's name. Right, okay. So you've got that going on. But what's incredibly galling to me is that you've got the connection to Russia, and the fact that Russia appears to be meddling in American domestic politics in a very serious way. And then you've got this. So Jared Kushner, who's already under the spotlight, right? So he is the son-in-law of Donald Trump. If you're talking about nepotism, here you are. If you're talking about, doing well out of your family being in power, then here it is. If you want to do some kind of quasi-impeachment inquiry on Joe Biden, then, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Jared Kushner's Middle East actions are under the spotlight after the Israel attack. So this is going back to October last year. But even then, it's the idea that Kushner, who's married to former president's daughter Ivanka Trump, runs a private equity firm, Affinity Partners. It received $2 billion in investment from a fund led by the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman 6 months after Trump left the White House in January 2021. Okay, so he's being scrutinized. Just get a load of this.
Jared Kushner did work in the White House. He worked very hard. It's becoming a little less clear what he actually worked hard at, because after he left the White House, he went out and raised $3.1 billion, that's billion with a B, for a private equity fund. And as you pointed out, he's not a private equity guy. He's a real estate guy. So where did this money come from? Some of it we know from filing, some of it we know from press reports. What we know for a fact is he raised the $3.1 billion. What we also know for a fact is that only about $30 million of it actually came from investors in the United States. All the rest of it is foreign money. And of that foreign money, $2 billion of it came from the Saudis. And
your big question is, when you have a bunch of money coming your way, it is quid pro quo. And it's the same with lobbying in any political party in any country in the world. It's like, you've given me $30,000 as a politician who is running for this member of whatever parliament I'm going for. You give me $30,000. What do you want for that $30,000? If you're the National Rifle Association, are you bribing me effectively to decide in a way that is beneficial to you? Because if you're not, then what's the point of that $30,000? And so the question is always, why is that money there? Is it genuinely to get return on that investment? Well, if that money's not been spent yet, what is that money for? Why have you given him $2 billion? Why has the UAE given Jared Kushner $200 million, in Qatar $200 million?
not only did it come from the Saudis, but the Public Investment Fund, which is the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, from which this money came, the board of it voted against giving the money to Jared, and they were overruled by MBS, who...
So they were overruled by the Crown Prince. They didn't want to give Jared Kushner that money, and he's personally given it to Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner was in that position in the White House, and if Trump gets back in, where is Jared Kushner going to be? He's going to be around the White House doing the similar sort of stuff.
said, give him the $2 billion. I've been in this business 40 years. I have never seen someone get $2 billion out of $3 billion, get 2/3 of their money from a single investor. Usually a single investor might be a few percent of the fund, might be 5%, occasionally 10%. Never seen this. Another $200 million.
Been doing that 40 years. I've never seen something like this.
We believe came from Qatar. Another $200 million we believe came from the UAE. And then the $625 million that came from foreign investors that we don't even know who they are. So what was Jared Kushner doing in the White House? And by the way, as a fun fact, on January 6th, the famous January 6th, Jared Kushner was in the Middle East.
Steve, I heard from a prominent Middle East investor a couple weeks ago that there's not much out there on how Jared has actually been able to execute his funding. He's got all this money, but like you and Jonathan said, his background is not in private equity. And I've seen only one news report of a small European investment. He's sitting on all this money. Are the Saudis investing with him just to hedge their bets politically in case Trump comes back into office?
3 years later, almost, or 2.5 years later, whatever, he's got $3 billion and he's only spent a tiny proportion of that on actual investments. What is that money doing? What is it for? Why does he have it?
At least those are your words, not mine, but it's certainly a reasonable speculation. Yeah, we haven't seen him do a lot with this money. He has hired some people. I do know that. I think you mentioned to me during the break that you'd seen one investment that I hadn't even seen. I've seen nothing else about what he's actually done with the money. It is normal to invest this money over a period of several years, so I don't think we can draw a firm conclusion yet. But again, we're going back to a guy who's a real estate guy, and frankly not a particularly good one at that, who suddenly got $3 billion trying to do private equity deals, competing against people who've been in the business a long time.
I love the reaction of the host there. Like, this is a private equity guy. He's not got the a real estate guy. He's not got the skills in private equity. So why would you give $2 billion to someone who's not skilled, that has no form in this area, and you give them that money, and then nothing happens with the money for 2.5 years? What? I'm sorry. Like, it irritates the bejesus out of me when you've got this whole Hunter Biden, and I have it on my threads, and I'm arguing with people all the time, because it is just, it's a way of trying to take down the Democrats, right? Try to get down Joe Biden. And you have that, which appears to have been generated by the Russian secret services, right? And then it's been this long-running investigation that has found nothing. There is nothing there. At the moment, we've just had that secret deposition where if they'd found something, the Republicans would have come out and said, yeah, this is what we got. They came out and said nothing. They said nothing. And then the Democrats came out at a meeting and said there was nothing. And do you know what? Hunter Biden did a really good job. Nothing, right? But I want all those same people. I want every single person I've spoken to on my threads, every single one of you, to come out and be as exacting with this news as you have been with the Hunter Biden. I want you to be as rhetorically robust against Trump and against nepotism and against Jared Kushner and against what looks like very dubious funding. I want you to be as strong with this as you have been for probably years with the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden situation. Double standards annoys me, and I know we all have our biases, and I know you can accuse me of being biased here, but I'm sorry, when you put Jared Kushner and even Ivanka Trump, there's a clip I saw of her surrounded by dignitaries the other day when and it was embarrassing. It was cringeworthy. It was like, why is she there? And she was like putting her opinion across, and it was so naive. And it was from some EU meeting or something. Theresa May was there. And I'm like, what are you doing there? Oh, right, you're the daughter of Donald Trump. That's why you've been put there. And Jared Kushner, why are you the Middle East envoy? What expertise have you got here? Thrown into that. And then a couple of years later, he walks out with $3.1 billion. Look, if you don't find that problematic, you need to think about your own biases.
And I wouldn't if I were
anyway. Just listen to the sound of the host. I think it's here.
But again, we're going back to a guy who's a real estate guy, and frankly, not a particularly good one at that, who suddenly got $3 billion trying to do private equity deals, competing against people who've been in the business a long time. And I wouldn't, if I were the Saudis, count on making a lot of money from this anytime soon. Jared,
I just felt I had to say that when these things like eat away in my brain. I just had to get it out there, and you guys are my sounding board. Now, I could just be being insanely pro-Biden, pro-Democrat, but like this is far more worrying and a much bigger sum of money, and from far like obviously dubious sources like Saudi Crown Prince and this and that. And then, by the way, Khashoggi, the journalist who was killed by the Saudis, that all happened at the same time. Suddenly, Jared Kushner's got a bunch of money, and Trump buries the investigation into the death of that journalist who was actually, working for an American organization, Jamal Khashoggi. I probably said that wrong, but that's just on memory. You do start wondering about these things, and yet this Hunter Biden thing keeps lumbering on with nothing to show for it. It's like, what's going on here? As this tweet says, Jim Jordan on Jared Kushner receiving $2 billion from the Saudis. Quote, the idea that Jared Kushner did something wrong is ridiculous. I mean, the Trump family has been investigated more than any family on the planet. Yeah, that's because they do more dodgy stuff. And that they have attempted to do to President Trump, and what they've attempted to do to President Trump over the last 7 years is unbelievable. So again, I don't want to get into that. Why don't you want to get into that? Why don't you want to get into the fact that Jared Kushner is sitting on $3 billion and it doesn't appear to be doing anything with it, and we're not quite sure why he's really got it, and it's come from sources that are somewhat questionable in terms of what their intentions are. Why are you not thinking about that? Why does that not worry you, Jim Jordan? Just really irritates me. Anyway, that's enough on that subject. Let me know what you think, and I'm sure I'll have a lot of people who love a bit of the DJT who'll be screaming at me for I don't know, something I've done wrong. Let me know anyway. Take care. Speak soon.